Hi, this is Peter Lisoskie, founder of the Story Selling Blueprint Formula, and I want to welcome you and thank everyone to the workshop on how to beat rejection, build trust, and inspire buying through storytelling. Now first, I'm going to let you in on a dirty little secret before we start the workshop in webinars, and I'm going to tell you why. Most every webinar you attend is recorded and not live. Now, many internet marketers use phrases to make you think it's live when it's not. Well, I'm here to tell you this webinar is recorded too. Now, why did I tell you this? Well, first, it's because I'm here to tell you the truth. And I'm here to share with you some very powerful and usable information for you to learn. And then if you'd like to dig deeper on how to put this into practice to beat rejection, build that trust with your prospects, and increase sales, well, you're going to have that opportunity as well. I'm not going to use the hype tactics or sales tricks like you see so many of the other internet marketers use as far as value buildups and all that other nonsense. The reason is that it raises the mistrust and skepticism in you and in your prospects, which you'll learn all about today, and works against the person who is doing the selling to lower conversions. That's why that old cliche, sales is a numbers game, is so overused, because the exact same gurus that are teaching you how to sell are in truth hurting their sales by using the so-called proven tactics they teach instead of just telling stories. And in the end, I really don't think you care whether this webinar is live or recorded. What you really care about is getting usable information that you can apply today or tomorrow to get the result you want to achieve, and to discover a system that actually works to help you sell. So if you're wanting to beat rejection and increase your sales, then you came to the right place. We're going to teach you how using the right kind of stories told in the right sequence in the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. Once you know what we know, you're never going to sell the same way again. So what I encourage you to do now is watch the webinar, grab a pad of paper and a pen, so take some notes, and let's dive into this webinar. All right, we're in the webinar here on storytelling and how to really finally beat rejection, build that trust, and inspire buying. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The goal for the webinar is this. We really want to teach you some actionable methods to, number one, get beyond no. I don't know how many of you guys don't, rejection, in my opinion, just sucks. And a lot of you guys don't like being told no. I don't either. So I'm going to give you some methods through telling stories on how to get beyond that no, how to build trust with the people you're talking to. I don't care whether it's a friend, family, neighbor, or a stranger. There are particular stories you can tell to make connection and build trust. How to create desire, and then how to inspire buying. And we do this in a blueprint fashion in the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. We're going to go through that today so you can really see the bigger picture of how powerful this method really is. And most importantly, if you've had trouble with selling, or you think selling is icky or fake or it's not natural for you, I'm here to tell you that telling stories is like selling without selling at all. It's really pretty easy. But first I want to ask you a few questions and see how many of you answer yes to these particular questions. Number one, do you get a bit nervous when talking with strangers about your product, service, or opportunity? Do you struggle with how to start a conversation that doesn't sound fake? Do you hate being told no? Does it frustrate you when you think someone is interested and then they don't show up to your presentation or demonstration? Have you ever had someone interested and then they say those infamous words, well, I have to think about it? And do you ever have some days where you just feel like throwing in the towel? Have you ever said to yourself, maybe sales isn't for me? Well, I want to really help you out here and show you the power of telling stories, the right stories in the right sequence that's in the Story Selling Blueprint Formula we're going to discuss in the future here on this webinar. But first, I really would like to get your attention. So please, grab, like I said in the intro video, if you haven't done so already, grab your pad of paper and a pen. Turn off your cell phone. Get away from Facebook or any other websites that you're on so that you can have undivided attention here and learn about the power of telling stories as the only way to sell. Let me give you a little background. This is me here in the picture. I'm Peter Lisoskie, and you saw me in the video in the front end of this webinar. And I want to tell you a story about how I discovered and perfected the power of stories, and then I'm going to show you how you can do that too. Back in about 1987, I think it was, I received, for a Christmas gift from my mom, I received a set of VHS tapes, and all of you old enough remember that outdated technology. She had given me a set of tapes on the power of myth, okay, by this guy named Joseph Campbell. I'd never heard of him before. And I was just starting my career. I was a few years into it, and I sat during the Christmas break, because I had a week off between Christmas and New Year's, and I watched these tapes, and it absolutely just blew me away, because it really connected with me and was a defining moment, as I had been traveling all over the world. I'd been all over Asia, all over Europe, all over South America, North America, in business travels, and what I had found out was that it doesn't matter where you go, what culture, what country, what language, that at the base of it all, as far as telling stories, passing stories along, the communication and inner dialogue in the mind, it was all the same as far as people's doubts and desires. Okay? And then came along Joseph Campbell, and he was talking about the power of myth and what he coined, and we'll be talking about this in the webinar, the hero's journey. Okay? And it really cemented for me, wow, this is very interesting stuff. Well, I just kind of let that lie. I really didn't have a story selling formula at that time until about 1994. Fast forward about 7 years later, I had started my first entrepreneurial business. It was called the Business Toolbox, and I had this book I was putting out that was talking about, it was called Customers for Keeps, and you can look it up on Google. I think it's still out there and exists. But I'd written this book based on a national user group that I had for Apple. Some of you remember that back in the Apple II, 2GS days, prior to even the Mac Plus. We had these large user groups. Well, I had a group of about 1,200 members. It was one of the largest in the country. And I had developed a system for interacting with customers from prospect all the way through up to strategic advisors inside the user group. So I wrote this book called Customers for Keeps, and I had got this little office. It was in the basement of this church. It had no windows. And I had my Apple IIgs with the green screen, and I had written this book, and I had put it out to about 200 different book authors for testimonials and for them to read it and give me feedback. Okay, at that time, a lot of the guys were getting started, like Brian Tracy and others. They were just starting their careers. Well, one Saturday morning, I was in my basement office there, typing away on my little Apple IIgs, and the phone rings. And at the other end of the phone, a fella gets on, and he says, hey, he goes, I got your manuscript, and this is really fascinating stuff. It's really kind of groundbreaking. He said, so what's your story? Well, he didn't introduce himself at that time. He had asked me that question. So I immediately went into pitch mode, right, about, well, here's what the book's about. Here's, how I can, help people. And he goes, no. He goes, I want to know your story. What's your story? Why did you create this? What's the passion behind it? Then you can tell me about how this book can help the people who read it. Well, little did I know, and I found out afterwards, that person on the other end of the phone was J. Conrad Levinson, author of The Guerrilla Marketing Empire, who's since passed away. We became friends and stayed in touch for quite a long time. And he wrote me, you can see on the back of the book, he wrote me a testimonial for the book. And that forever basically cemented in my mind that telling stories is probably the most powerful way to sell and communicate and help people in the discovery process of buying. The only other piece that's just as powerful is what we teach in the Croc Brain Selling System, which is how to use neuroscience and trigger the buying brain. But other than that, telling stories is built into our DNA. It is the most natural way to talk to people, to communicate to people, to sell to people. So that's a story about how this all got started. And over the years, I've been using stories and telling stories and selling and really getting that attention, building the engagement and trust, getting the desire built up, and then inspiring buying through a process of selling stories. And that's how the Story Selling Blueprint formula came into existence. Now, I want to share with you some of the things that you've been led to believe. Okay, first of all, Myth number one, you've been led to believe that you need to learn sales scripts, which is absolutely not true. Myth number two is you need to have trial closings and objection handling, okay, which is also a myth. And really, at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but it just makes me feel icky, like I want to take a shower. Okay, so it's just not a good way to sell, and it flat out also doesn't work. Because myth number three, everyone tells you selling is a numbers game, right? Some will, some won't, so what, who's next? If you're in network marketing or direct sales, you probably heard that so many times you want to throw up. The thing about it is those myths are all myths. The truth is none of those are true in sales. Okay? The question I'm going to ask is, do you really want to sell the easy way? Well, I'm here to show you how. Okay? Now, before we do that, we're going to have a little science lesson because I love to do these science lessons. Here's a scientific fact. This university, the Princeton University Research Center, they used, in neuroscience, they used what's called electroencephalograph technology. Okay? This is the swimmer's cap where they have the transmitters and they measure the electrical impulses between your synapses in your brain and your neural network. What they did is they hooked up two people. One person was going to tell a story, the other person was going to listen to the story. And this was back in 2010. What they found out through their research time and time again was that when a story is told, the storyteller and the story receiver have identical brainwave patterns. Now, let me say that to you again, just so you understand how significant that is. The story, when you're telling stories, the storyteller, you, and the story receiver, who's ever listening to your story, have identical brainwave patterns. In other words, they are so engaged, they are connected with you on a brainwave pattern basis. And we've measured this now through neuroscience evidence and science fact. Okay? So this is why, guys, if you think about it, when you watch a tearjerker movie, this is why you tear up and start crying. Because in your brain, you become the character in the movie. This is how powerful storytelling really is. And we are now applying it to selling or to aid in the discovery process of buying. Okay? Now, here's the man that I want to introduce you to that really changed my life back in 1987 that was landmark. This is Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was a scholar and a professor at one of the Ivy League schools here in America. He spent his whole life really going around the world and discovering the power of myth and the commonalities of cultures. And what he found out was this. He dedicated his life to create what he coined the hero's journey. Now, the hero's journey is your call to adventure or your prospect's call to adventure to go from that known to unknown. We all go through this. We have this inner dialogue and battle that we go through between core doubt and core desire. Okay? Core doubts are all those what ifs. What if I buy this product and it doesn't work and I got taken advantage of? What if I do this business or try this business and I fail and I look like I look humiliated in front of my family and friends? What if I don't make enough money for my retirement? What if I can't get my kids to college? These are all these core doubts that in an extreme sense cause anxiety and stress, right? As opposed to core desires. These are your longings. These are things that if you could just do, if I could only, or if I could just, whatever you finish that with, that is a core desire. If I could just get my health back, if I could just save enough money for retirement, if I could just become financially independent, if I could just have enough money to pay for my kids' college education so they don't have to go into debt. These are all things that are core desires, and really, everyone has them, but what we have to do is take our prospects on what we call this hero's journey that Joseph Campbell coined to get them from known to unknown, to basically go through the process through a series of stories that I'm going to show you and that you will learn in the story selling blueprint formula, so that you can take them from getting their attention in the known to building connection and building trust, to cross that threshold right here, to go through a transformation process where they're starting to basically understand that there's a new truth and that they've been lied to create a new sense of value and price, then to go through and create a mental possession of your product prior to a physical possession with their wallet. The possession of the product is the transformation, the atonement, and the elixir, and they return back just like you did to community with passion and you want to share this with everybody. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, just to help you understand the power of this hero's journey before we get into sales, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you in terms of this man, George Lucas, who discovered the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talked about at the beginning of when he was writing the screenplay for Star Wars. And in fact, George Lucas stood up in a Lifetime Achievement Award for Joseph Campbell and basically said, and you can look this up on YouTube, if it wasn't for Joseph Campbell, and this was in about because in 77, I think Star Wars came out, and this was in 1984, about 7 years later. So in that period of 7 times, in this Lifetime Achievement Award banquet for Joseph Campbell, George Lucas stood up and said, if it wasn't for Joseph Campbell and understanding the hero's journey, I might be still writing Star Wars today. Okay, this is how powerful this really is. So what George Lucas did is he told a story of adventure. That adventure is a reflection of our own inner fear battles, okay? It's about overcoming our core doubts to get to our core desires and our struggle to achieve a new result or outcome. So obviously, people who are interested, people who want what you have to offer, they want a new result or new outcome in their life that will help them achieve that core desire. And I'm here to tell you that that inner mind game is how you sell, that connection through stories, and it's the same for selling. But I want to prove my point here by using Star Wars, because most everybody around the world has at least seen some of Star Wars, okay? So you recognize this guy, right? He was the leading character in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker. Now I'm going to show you what Luke Skywalker did to go through his hero's journey within the Star Wars movie. Okay, so you got to remember Luke Skywalker was sitting on planet Tatooine. He was with his aunt and uncle, and he was doing farming and fixing robots to help in the farming and things like that, right? Well, if you remember in the movie, Luke Skywalker went to one of the robot auctions, but prior to that, C-3PO and R2-D2, who you see right in this picture here, who are the messengers, they were captured by the dark side, right? The Death Star, and they were sold into slavery down to these little people that were selling the robots on planet Tatooine. Well, Luke Skywalker found that golden robot C-3PO, and then C-3PO got him over to R2-D2. He ended up talking his uncle in and buying both those robots. They took him back to his workshop, and in the workshop, he had a tool. He pried open the hatch there on R2-D2, and out pops this hologram. And this hologram is Princess Leia basically giving a message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, saying, Obi-Wan Kenobi, we need your help. We've been captured by the Death Star. The dark side is growing. We have to battle them. And so basically Luke is wondering, I wonder what this is all about. So he talks to his parents, his uncle, at dinner time, and he tells them all about this. Well, he didn't know at the time. His uncle knows that Darth Vader was his father, which Luke didn't know at the time, but his uncle did. And he said, hey, uncle, I had this message that came out. He goes, he talked about this Obi-Wan Kenobi. He goes, I wonder if that's that old Ben Kenobi up on the north side of the planet, right? Well, the uncle plays it down. He goes, no, that's not true. And, we need to keep our nose to the grindstone and stick to farming and things like that, right? Well, the next scene in the movie, right, Luke is out there and he's on the north side of the planet. He's in his speeder with C-3PO and R2-D2, and all of a sudden he gets ambushed by these big, huge creatures called the Sand People, right? And right before one of the Sand People hit him with the staff to kill him, who shows up? But this guy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Who vanquishes the Sand Person and saves Luke Skywalker, right? So Luke shows him this message, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is what we call the herald, which is going to be you in the selling process, right? So what Obi-Wan Kenobi does is he tells Luke what's called a herald story. He says, Luke, you've got to come join forces to become a Jedi Knight. We need you. We have to battle the dark side. Well, Luke is what we call a reluctant hero, and he says, no, I can't go because I have to stay here and be with my uncle. I have to be responsible. I have to tend to the farm. And Obi-Wan says, no, you need to go, right? So, Luke is pushing back and resisting. So Luke takes off after he talks to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's the herald, goes back to his home, and as he's coming over the horizon, he sees his house is on fire, and he looks over to the right, and he sees his uncle laying on the ground barbecued. He's burnt to death. So now Luke is in revenge. He says, that's it. I'm going to avenge my uncle and my aunt's death, and I'm going to become a Jedi, and I'm going to fight the dark side. So at that particular time, he does what? He crosses the threshold from known into unknown. So what does he do? He takes off in a spaceship. He goes up to planet Dagobah, and he meets this guy, right? You know him as Yoda. Yoda is what we call the wizard, and you will become the wizard like Yoda when you are doing the story-selling blueprint formula. Now, what's Yoda's job is to teach and educate and transform, okay? Now, Luke has while he's learning and he's becoming a Jedi Knight and he's looking at all of the things that a Jedi Knight should do and can do, he goes through a series of trials and tribulations, challenges, and things like that. And ultimately, he leaves, he has enough of the skills, but not quite all of them, but he leaves planet Dagobah and leaves Yoda, right, the wizard, and he goes on a quest to vanquish Darth Vader and the Death Star, right? So he gets into the Death Star, and he gets into this epic battle, right, with Darth Vader. And Darth Vader is tempting him. This is the temptation, right? The temptation towards doubt again, right? Join the dark side. You're going to be powerful. This is all the flirting with the fear that your prospect has or that you have in life. So he goes through this epic battle. We call this the innermost cave, where he is battling the death fight. He's battling the difference between core doubt and core desire. And who's over there? There's all these, you can have evil demons and things like that, which is all your doubts. That is the Emperor. The Emperor's over there. You know, once he gets Darth Vader on the ground, the Emperor's going, kill him to Luke, right? He's taunting him. He wants to have Luke be overcome by his fear and his doubt. Well, Luke fights back and he says, no, I am going to go through the full transformation process. I'm going to go towards my full atonement, my full development as a Jedi Knight. And he goes through the transformation process of that. He does find out that his father is Darth Vader. Instead of killing him, he saves his life, right? Now he's become a true Jedi Knight. He's gone through complete atonement. But he has seized what we call the elixir. And you'll see that, which is your product, service, or business opportunity. He seizes that elixir over here, and he returns as the Jedi, as an elevated person. It is no different than what you went through if you were buying a product, service, or business opportunity where you were here, someone was the herald, they called you on an adventure, you had these doubts and desires, but there was something that got you to cross the threshold. You went through several doubts, several challenges, trials, and tribulations, a lot of inner dialogue in your mind. You went through a death fight between doubt and desire. You finally said, you know what, this transformation is real. I believe this person. I am going to either buy this product, buy this service, or get involved in this business opportunity, and you go through complete transformation, and then you return back to your community with an elevated awareness and a new passion, and you want to share that with everyone, okay? That is the hero's journey in action through the metaphor of Star Wars, okay? Now, this hero's journey, guys, by the way, is everywhere, okay? It's in all movies, all books, all plays, all good sells, everywhere, okay? Just to give you some recognizable movies that use the hero's journey, we've got Finding Nemo. We have the Harry Potter series. We have The Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, all the Toy Stories, Tron, The Matrix, whatever movie, Monsters, if you want to go back, look at, now that I've explained the hero's journey, look at what is going on in any particular movie that you like, and you will see the metaphor of the hero's journey in there, okay? Well, the nice thing about this and what's most powerful is we can apply, this was my big discovery, is we can apply it to selling, okay? So what we do first in this known is this is your prospect who is the person on the journey. And I'm going to go through each of these things in this webinar so you understand the power of the story selling blueprint formula. First, you have to identify your angel avatar. These are your ideal clients, and not any person will do. So if you've just been talking to anybody and everybody, you will find out that there are some people that you do not want to talk to that are highly negative, that are competitive shopping, that are low-price shoppers, that really are ungrateful, demand a lot of your time. We call those devils. They are not your angels. So we're going to talk about how to find your angel avatar, find your heroes. Then I'm going to talk to you about what this sales magnet story is about, which is a story about a person like them to create and get attention and build relatability. Then we're going to go into and talk about what this herald story is, which is going to get them to cross the threshold. Remember, you're Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are the herald. You're going to tell this herald story, which is a story about you that's going to build connection and trust. Then you become the wizard and you tell the transformation story. This is about telling a new truth, new beliefs, to create basically a new set of values and a price disassociation so you don't become a commodity like everything else. Then you go through and you tell this last story, which is the ownership blueprint story, and that is about creating a mental possession of your product, service, or opportunity prior to a physical possession with your wallet, and we talk all about that here upcoming in the webinar. And finally, the prospect becomes a customer. They buy your elixir, which is your product, service, or business opportunity, seize the sword, and they return back to their known community with this new elixir, which is your product or your service or your business opportunity. Okay, so this is the hero's journey as it applies. There are 6 pieces to this, and you will see how all these 6 pieces come together here as we go forward in this webinar. So I gotta share with you, why is story selling so powerful? Well, first of all, as you guys probably already know, and you do this yourselves, people love to hear stories. It's built into their DNA. Okay, we've been telling stories since the dawn of man. I mean, we've even had stories prior to written language. We had petroglyphs by the cave people on the walls that were telling stories about their hunting, about their living, about what they did. This has evolved all the way through with humans throughout hundreds of thousands of years. The stories, why they're powerful, because they speak to a person's inner dialogue. Your prospect, you have inner dialogue, so does your prospect, okay? And I'm here to tell you that you can't sell anything to anybody. You can only connect with that inner dialogue and create a discovery process of buying, and that's what the story selling blueprint formula does. Stories also are powerful because they connect the inner dialogue of what they're talking about to your product or your service or your business opportunity, okay? It is very, very powerful, and we teach you how to do that in the story selling blueprint formula. They also help a person to overcome their fears. Remember, I talked about core doubt versus core desire. If you cannot get a person past their fears, they will not buy, okay? You have to build such massive desire that you're going to inspire buying, and that's what stories do so powerfully, yet so naturally, okay? I'm going to give you 5 secrets now to better sales conversions, and you're going to see as it ties to each of these stories in the story selling blueprint formula as we go through a person's hero's journey. Okay, secret number 1 is you need to find your heroes. Okay, these are your angel avatars that I talked about, and we'll get into that in detail here in just a moment. Secret number 2 is you need to get that prospect's attention, right? Without their attention, you're not going to go very far in the selling process, correct? You've got to get their attention, and you've got to get past no or no thanks, I'm not interested, okay? You got to get them engaged, and that's the second secret there. Secret number 3 is you connect and build trust. Remember, people will buy from people that they like, know, and trust, okay? So your job is another story is to build that connection, build that trust through telling a story. Secret number 4 is you don't have to compete on price. I don't care what you sell, whether it's a few $100s or several $1,000s. You don't have to compete on price. You don't have to be a commodity. You don't have to be like all your competitors, because if you don't do anything, if you don't tell this particular story to create price and value disassociation, you're going to become a commodity, and they are going to competitive shop. Have you ever had a particular situation where you were working with somebody and then they shopped the competition and they said, I'm going to buy the competitor's products and not yours? If you have, then you really need to pay attention to secret number 4. Secret number 5 is you create that ownership experience, and that is the mental possession of your product, service, or opportunity prior to the physical possession, okay? And we're going to talk all about that in secret 5, okay? Secret number 1, let's get into some detail here now, is you need to find your heroes. These are called your angel avatars. You want to attract the angels and repel the devils. Now, just to give you an idea, and if you look at this as you're reading this, as I'm talking about it, you're going to remember that you had some people like this, and these are the people that you'd wish you'd work with all the time. So we have a particular exercise and a set of questions that you will be answering in the story selling blueprint formula to get at exactly identifying and finding your angel avatars. Angels are excited that you showed up. You ever had someone that went, wow, I am so excited that you showed up and that you're showing me this product, service, or opportunity. Angels express gratitude for you. They're grateful you're there. Angels are passionate about your product. They immediately get it. They're excited. They're connected. They want to know what's next. Angels sell themselves in your product. You ever had a person like that where it's like they were almost pulling you along towards the finish line and giving you their money? Okay? These are angels. These connect. We have a 7-question formula to help you in the Story Selling Blueprint formula uncover your angels. So I have to ask you this question. Would you like to attract people who are grateful that you showed up? Or do you want to deal with people who are really skeptical, mistrustful, negative, are telling you time and time again that your product is too expensive and I'm going to go elsewhere? Okay? So if you answered this yes, then you really want to find those heroes or find those angel avatars. Okay? Secret number 2 is you need to get their attention. Now, a story, as you know, naturally arouses curiosity. You get curious when someone says to you, hey, I've got this story I want to share with you about so-and-so. You want to hear it? Naturally, we always say, yes, sounds good. I'd love to hear it, okay? Telling them a story about a person like them is very, very powerful. Why? Because they can relate to that person. It creates relatability and gets their attention, and it engages them in good listening. We call this your sales magnet story in the Story Selling Blueprints formula. So after you identify your angel avatars, your ideal clients, then you work on writing or crafting your sales magnet story, and we have a formula. That sales magnet story creates interest because they can relate. And the sales magnet story also beats rejection because they're engaged, they're listening, and they're realizing, wow, this is a story about a person like me. Okay, so this is why it's so powerful. So we teach you the formula about how to write the sales magnet story inside the Story Selling Blueprint formula. Now, I got to ask you a question. Would you have more confidence if you had a lot more people say, yes, I'm interested, instead of no, thank you, I'm not interested? What would that do to your confidence? Okay? Secret number 3, you can connect and build trust. People follow people they trust. You follow people you trust, right? Good leaders create trust in others. The call to adventure that you're doing in this Herald story is for a better life for them. It is a connection to get the result that meets the core desire like I talked about. The Herald story that you're going to, and there's a formula for this one too, that you're going to be writing builds that trust and desire. The twist is it's a story about you, so it should be pretty easy. It's going to be about your struggle, your emotion, and we have a formula for how to write this to craft your Herald story. And what it does is it builds massive trust. Okay? Now, let me ask you this question. Would it build your credibility and relatability, too, if you told them a story about your struggle and discovery, about what you did before you bought this product, and how it affected your life? Do you think that would build credibility and relatability, which is the cornerstone of building trust and connection? Okay? Secret number 4, you don't have to compete on price. Now, this is where the Story Selling Blueprint formula gets very, very powerful. Because if you've ever had that situation where someone asks you right away, well, what does this product cost? And you tell them and they say, wow, that's kind of expensive. Based on what? They have nothing that they're comparing it to except for their perception of what your product is all about. So this story here, this transformation story, blows apart that perception. You are basically the wizard, and you are there to tell them a new truth. If you ever watched that TV show Mythbusters where they're busting all these myths, you are a mythbuster. You are a new truth teller to help them get the result that they desire. This is done through what we call a transformation story, and it has a formula to it as well. And you will see exactly step by step how to write this. Plus, by the way, guys, every single one of these modules in the Story Selling Blueprint formula has at least 2 or 3 examples of stories that I wrote in there that you can basically use as a template or even copy and paste to create your own stories. It's just that easy and just that powerful, okay? So the transformation story, going back to this, is what it does, the power of it, is it creates a price and value disassociation. What that means is, the person that had this perception about the affordability of your product or the price of your product based on some perception that they had in their head that you couldn't control, well, now you can, because you can create this transformation story that blows apart those truths about their perceptions on price and value, and it creates a price and value disassociation because you are letting them know a new truth that they've been lied to. Okay, so think about your product, service, or opportunity. Look at it from, what can I tell as a new truth? How do I create differentiation of price and value for my product, service, or opportunity? Because if you don't do that, you are a commodity. And a commodity like toilet paper and toothpaste and everything else is a commodity. Lowest price is king. Most people buy on price in commodities, not on brand. That's already been proven by branding research. Okay? So another question to ask yourself. Would your success increase if you could create a new truth so that you don't have to compete on price? Let me really ask you that question again so it sinks in. This is a very, very powerful question. Would your success increase if you could create a new truth so you don't have to compete on price? What would that do for you and your confidence, your business, your success, right? Think about that, okay? Secret number 5, you can create an ownership experience, okay? And what I mean by that is that mental possession that I have in blue there. You demonstrate how your products gets their results and satisfies their core desire through this ownership experience story. The ownership story creates a mental possession of your product prior to the physical possession with their wallet. Okay, the thing about it, guys, is we all make mental possessions, like I say in the bottom bullet point. We always buy in our mind first with emotion prior to making the physical purchase at the counter. Okay, and this ownership story, this ownership experience story, creates that it's a 6-step formula to build the story. We give it to you step by step by step, along with a few examples, again, of how to write these so that you're not sitting there all by yourself trying to scratch your head and figure this out, okay? But what it does is it gives an emotional connection. Part of the formula is using what we call feel, felt, found, and I get into that in specifics, along with using mental triggers that activate and create this mental possession in their mind, all right? That's secret number 5. You create an ownership experience in their mind prior to the physical possession with their wallet. Now let me ask you another question. Would you increase your bottom line if you could create an ownership experience to inspire buying more often? Okay? If you had a method, a system, a process, a story that could create an ownership experience to inspire buying more often, what do you think that's going to do to your bottom line? Okay? Now, let me ask you a few more questions here. If all this training did was to give you confidence by selling naturally, in other words, you don't have to feel icky or fakey, you're telling stories, and you're going to see, if you look below this workshop, read the testimonials after you watch this of real people just like you who went through this, who were students in the previous classes, and what they said about how their life has changed because they're telling stories now and they don't feel like they're selling at all. Okay? So if all this training did was to give you confidence by selling naturally, what would that be worth to you? Would you want to have a formula? I mean, really, a step-by-step formula to increase your income. And how cool would that be? Now, I want to recap on the power of stories and selling. Okay? We learned that you've got to first target your ideal client. We called those your angel avatars, right? And that's in the Finding Your Heroes module. Okay? We also learned to get past all that rejection, all that no or no thanks, I'm not interested. You tell a story about a person like them. That was the sales magnet story. We have a formula for that one. We learned that before you can do your product presentation, they've got to trust you or they're not going to show up. How do you build that trust, that massive trust and connection? You do that through the Herald story. We learned that you've got to create a new truth or you're always going to be fighting the price game. You can believe me or not believe me, but this is the actual truth of it. If you don't create a new truth, you're going to be a commodity and you're going to fight the price game. And you probably already have. So if you have, you might want to stop and consider, maybe there's a different or better way, and I could do this by telling a story. Okay? We learned also that all people buy first in their mind before their wallet. This is creating that ownership experience by telling that ownership experience story with emotion, and there's a formula to that one too, so that they are taking mental possession prior to physical possession. I know you're thinking right now probably, being able to tell stories to increase my income, man, that would be a dream come true, right? Does it sound like a stretch to you? Well, here's the thing. I used to feel that way too years ago until it happened to me. And it changed the way I felt about using stories to sell more. Now that I've found how to sell with stories, I'm never going to go back to the old ways of selling ever again with, selling scripts, trial closing, objection handling, and all that other nonsense that the so-called gurus have been selling and teaching you over the years. And if you look at the people below this video, you'll see this workshop forever change the way they sell as well, like it did for Bill. Here's a fellow that used the story selling blueprint formula and what I taught. Here's what he said. This guy knows what he's talking about. He worked on me and changed me, and now my business has exploded. Bill has really exploded. He's making a lot of income every single year. Now, imagine if all you had to do was tell stories to double, triple, or quadruple your sales. Would you be able to grow your savings? Would you want to travel? Would you help out your favorite cause? Imagine if instead of that typical resistance you get, people actually listened, were interested, and engaged. How would that make you feel? Would you be more confident? Would you have more enthusiasm for your business? Would it get you excited like it gets me every single day? Just like it did for Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth is another person who took the Story Selling Blueprint Formula course, and here's what she says. My biggest struggle was not knowing how to approach people about my business. Then I discovered this workshop. One of my teammates and myself had a party last night with 6 people, and 4 people placed orders. And it happened because I told stories. Okay? She is now exploding her business by telling stories and doing a really good job at it. Okay? Imagine how easily this would be able to teach your team. I mean, think about that. If you were using something that you had learned and had listened to as easy as bedtime stories as a child, if you had a formula and process, imagine how easily this would be to be able to teach your team to do as well. Would it more rapidly build your business if both you and your team were telling stories and closing more sales? Would you enjoy working with people more? Okay? Would you actually enjoy and have fun with your team? Okay? Like it did for Ken. Ken's another person that took the Story Selling Blueprint Formula workshop. Here's what Ken said. What's important to me about this workshop was being able to find a genuine emotional twist that is like tearing right into their prospect's chest and yanking on their heartstrings. And that's what stories do. And keeping it simple. After learning this, I taught it to my teammates, and they are selling with just their stories. Just incredible. Do you see how powerful this really is? Now, guys, here's the thing. And you know this to be true as well. Everybody knows people buy from people they like, know, and trust. If you're not getting the results you want, it has nothing to do with your product, your opportunity, your ability to sell, or even you. It has to do with connecting connecting with the power of stories. Stories that are told the right way in the right sequence, okay? I'd like to paint a picture for you of just how easy this is with what I've been talking about here, the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. All the modules in the Story Selling Blueprint Formula include a training webinar, helpful worksheets, and audio files to download and listen to anytime you want. After each training, you'll be crafting a piece of your story selling package. Now, here's what you're going to get with this 6-module course. Number 1, you're going to get how to identify your ideal prospects. Remember the angel avatars. You're going to get how to get a prospect's attention. You're going to learn how to beat rejection, that old no or no thanks, I'm not interested. You're going to learn how to build trust and connection, how to overcome price rejection, which we've all had and we all have a wish for. It's like, how in the heck do we overcome this price rejection that we always get, or this price resistance? And finally, you're going to learn how to get to inspire buying. Not now, not next month or next year, but how to inspire buying now. Okay. Now I want to show you each particular module so you can see just how powerful the Story Selling Blueprint Formula course really is. Okay. Here is the first one in the series. It's over an hour video on how to find your heroes, how to identify your ideal customers or clients. And you can see it in the bottom left. It has a MP3 audio that you can download, and it has your worksheet that has the 7 questions on basically how to find those ideal clients or those heroes. Okay. Then you get the second module, which is getting the prospect's attention. This is through the Sales Magnet Story, another hour-long webinar that will teach you how to develop your Sales Magnet Story to get their attention, get them listening, and get them engaged, right? That's the first step in all of the stories. Then you're going to learn how to build that massive trust and connection through the Herald Story. You're going to learn over an hour, again, a course on how to write your Herald Story. And by the way, these all come with examples. So you're going to be able to either copy and paste or use those examples on templates when you work through the particular worksheet for a particular module. The Herald Story, though, is a story about you. Remember I talked about that. It's how to write your Herald Story to make connection and build that trust. Okay? Then you're going to learn how to overcome price rejection by creating and crafting that transformation story to create that price and value disassociation so your product, service, or business opportunity isn't in the noise, it isn't stuck with all the competitors, and most importantly, it isn't a commodity where they're going to basically shop for the lowest price. All right? Then the next module is about inspiring buying now. This is done through the Ownership Blueprint Story. This is how you take them from the innermost cave and have them come through and take that mental possession of your product, service, or opportunity prior to the physical possession, okay? And then last is a bonus. We're going to give you this module. This is during physical possession. How to build a crushing offer to inspire a buying frenzy so that they buy now. Like I said, not next month, next year, but now, okay? I take you through step by step by step on how to build a crushing offer to create and inspire that buying frenzy. Now, in every training module, like I said, there are examples to help you easily understand how to craft your own stories. Now, where has this worked? Well, hey, it's worked for King and distributors. It's worked for retail direct sales, direct mail marketing, email and web marketing, product demonstrations. In fact, if you do a product demonstration, you're really going to want to look at both the transformation story and the ownership experience story, but you're going to see exactly how to tell stories during your product demonstration instead of flinging a bunch of facts and figures at them that really cause their eyes to glaze over and they don't listen. And it creates skepticism in their eyes, okay? You're going to be able to use it in networking meetings, at health fairs. Basically, you can tell stories by talking about them verbally. You can tell stories by writing about them as far as good copy, whether it be in direct mail, email and web marketing, product demonstrations. Wherever you go, you can either write or tell a story, and basically telling the right story in the right sequence is the power of the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. Now, think about it, guys. If all this training did was allow you to increase your sales, what would that be worth? What would doubling your income do to your life? Would you be able to go to buy that new house in that neighborhood that you've always wanted to live in? Would you be able to have enough money to pay for your kids' college education and watch them walk across the stage with your significant other, knowing that they're not in massive debt for the next 10 or 15 years of their life? Would you like to travel more and go around the world and have the money to do that? Would you like to save for your retirement, save for something else, and be able to have that extra money to really save for when you get older, for your golden years, okay? This is all possible by just telling stories if you know exactly the right story to tell in the right sequence, okay? What is one new client worth per year to you, per month, per week, okay? Now, here's the thing, guys, and this is where I talked to you before in the beginning of the webinar when you saw me in the video. You've probably seen this all before, right? I could go through each of these modules. Finding your ideal prospects, that's a $9.97 value. The Sales Magnet Story Blueprint, $12.97. And I could put all these values for a total value of $7,482. And here's the thing. You've seen this before by other internet marketers, and I'm here to tell you what this artificial buildup of value does is raise the mistrust, right, of the program in your eyes. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through all of this stuff because it's artificial, and you probably would be thinking, well, where in the heck did Peter come up with those values anyway, and is that really real? And I'm not going to do that. I'm here to tell you the truth. We look at the story selling blueprint formula as like an online learning, like a 3 college credit course, because you're going to get a massive amount of usable information. So you've seen some of these online learning universities, right? DeVry, University of Phoenix, Kaplan, Argosy, ITT, and Western Governors University. They advertise on TV. You see them running down the highway wherever you live in what city, right? Well, the story selling, like I said, is like a 3 credit college course. Now, if you were to take this course online at one of those universities, online university, I looked it up. The average cost would be $3,780. And the thing about it, what makes the story selling blueprint course different from a 3 college credit course online is, number one, the story selling blueprint formula course has the ability where you can apply it today. Not after a set of classes that you've taken in college where you have to wait. You can apply it today. It's also cutting edge in sales. This is material that's usable, that's cutting edge, that is timeless. Okay? It absolutely flat out works. You saw in some of the testimonials, and read the other ones below this video to prove it to yourself. You also, in a 3 college credit course and online university, is the class isn't available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week like this course is. You're going to be, the 6-module course, you get a login and password. You can go in there anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a lifetime, unlimited membership. You can go in as often as you want. We're not charging you an annual fee. We're charging you a one-time fee to get into the story selling blueprint formula course, okay? Now, you can see why it's a good deal at $1,997 when you compare it to a 3 college credit course at $3,780. But really, guys, here's the thing. I want you to really see the value here without playing any games, okay? So I'm going to throw in some bonuses. Bonus number 1, in addition to telling stories and knowing the right story to tell in the right sequence, you're also going to get my book, The Sell Effect. This gets into the 5 simple ways to get better sales conversions. And I talk about not only telling stories, but I also talk about the neuroscience aspect so you can kind of get a crossover, okay? Bonus number 2, I'm going to give you what I call my crock-brain selling system light. Crock-brain selling is the neuroscience. It is the new levels and technologies that I have learned over the last 7 years and applied it to different businesses to dramatically grow them. I've also helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people now worldwide. I work with some of the top neuroscientists and neuroscience brain research centers in the world, and you're going to get the Crock Brain Selling System Lite as a bonus here. You can see it's got a good value. I'm going to teach you not only all about the brain science, but about the ego filters and how powerful that really is. Okay, it comes along as a bonus. Bonus number 3, you're going to get the 4 chemical elixirs that aid in selling. Once you learn about, in Crock Brain Selling Light, about what is going on in the brain that triggers a buying response and activates the buying brain, you're going to learn all about these 4 chemical elixirs. Dopamine, which is the feel-good elixir. Oxytocin, which is the connection and trust-building elixir. Serotonin, which is the confidence I can do it elixir. And norepinephrine, which is the massive desire builder scarcity elixir. I'm going to show you exactly what to say, the mental triggers to get these elixirs to dump in the brain. This is very, very powerful, cutting-edge neuroscience technology stuff that works very, very well when you tell stories, okay? And I'm not going to do any false buildup like you saw before, a value like what you've seen everywhere on the internet these days, and really probably like me have built a mistrust for, okay? Now, another question I've got to ask you, if all this system did for you was increase your sales conversions by a few percentage points, okay, would it be worth it? I mean, think about that. What's another sale to you worth to you, okay? Per year, per month, or per week. You think about what that's worth to you, okay? So really, when it comes down to it, guys, the choice is yours, okay? For those of you who see the power of what we've taught here, if you're tired of rejection, if you get a bit nervous when talking with strangers about your product, service, or opportunity, if you struggle with how to start a conversation that doesn't sound fake, then it's not a matter of not wanting the solution that the story selling blueprint formula provides, okay? I learned a long time ago from a mentor of mine in business that affordability is really tied to belief. To be honest, if you don't believe, then you can't afford it, okay? So with that in mind, I'm going to offer you 3 different price options because you believe, like so many other students, you see before you blow. You can look and see what they wrote. You can see what happened to them, how it transformed their lives in selling. And I'm hoping you're believing by now going through this particular webinar and seeing the power of telling the right stories in the right sequence and learning that in the story selling blueprint formula, okay? So here's the thing. It's just a matter of really picking the price that fits your budget. Because if you have the belief, then you know you can afford it. It's really about now, okay, what's the particular way I can go here that fits my budget? So I'm going to give you 3 different options, okay? Option 1 is for those of you who are a little unsure. If you're still a little unsure and you want to kind of go in there and see if this thing's for real. I know some of you know me, some of you recognize my face, but some of you don't, and that's okay. So you can go ahead and do a 7-day free trial. You can go in and look at all the different modules. You can go ahead and listen to a module or two, look at the worksheets, try, like for example, go through the Finding Your Hero and do the Angel Avatar worksheet. After the 7-day trial, you'll be charged a one-time payment of $397. If in that 7 days you decide it's not for you, just send me an email. You won't be charged a thing. Okay? Option number 2, for those of you who see how the story selling and storytelling can change your lives, you get it, okay? And you understand, just like all the other people below in the testimonials, how this is transformational in your lives, but you want to save a little bit of money, okay? You pay a one-time payment of $297 for the next 72 hours because it is going up to $397 in 72 hours. You save $55, okay? Option number 3, the final option, is this. For those of you who see how this program can change your lives, but you want to spread out the payments just a bit more, you can do the 3-payment plan of $99. Now you see this big red arrow on each of these slides. All you have to do, there's a button below this workshop, this webinar. You just click on that button. It'll take you to the order form. It has all 3 options. It has the 7-day free trial. It has the $297 where you save $55 for the one-time payment. Or if you want to spread it out over 3 months, you get charged $99 now, $99 30 days from now, $99 60 days from now, okay? So either option will work. Really gets down to the choice and belief. If you believe this, if you've seen for yourself what this can do, you've read the testimonials, you get how this can work and the power of how naturally and powerful telling stories is, then just pick one of the different payment plans, click on that big button below, and go ahead and take the order and get yourself inside the story selling blueprint formula instantly, okay? Now, I'm just going to finish out with, you've seen the Star Wars, you've seen all the movies. These 3 guys are recognizable. I hope you recognize them, right? You need to find out what George Lucas, Ron Howard, and Steven Spielberg already know about telling stories to connect with an audience and make blockbuster money in the process. Each one of these guys understands the power of the hero's journey and telling a masterful story in the movies that they've produced over the years using the story selling blueprint formula. We just applied it to sales. Click on the button below, pick your option payment method. I hope you understand now and believe the power and the ease of telling stories to create that discovery process of buying in your customer or prospect's mind. With that, I'm Peter Lisoskie, the founder of the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. Thank you for attending this workshop, and I hope to see you on the inside of the Story Selling Blueprint Formula. Go ahead and click that button, click the order form, get that filled out, and get inside and start learning right away so that you can tell the next blockbuster story. With that, I'll talk to you soon.